Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today. We have an announcement to make on a 1990 unsolved Jane Doe homicide. Through the hard work of our detective division, who I have behind me here, and through the cooperation of Othram Lab out of Texas. I actually have the director, Michael Vogan, with us today. We've been able to identify a Jane Doe whose body was found in 1990. So I'm going to read you this press release. On July 20th, 1990, a female's body was discovered by a farmer in a field located near the intersection of Lebanon Road and Troy O'Fallon Road in rural Troy, Illinois, Madison County. The Madison County Sheriff's Office detectives responded to the scene, and I'm going to stop at that time to tell you we have a couple of the detectives with us today that we just wheeled in that were here in 1990 and helped this case through the years. They helped work many leads on this case. They responded to the scene where it was processed as a homicide. Initial investigation concluded the decedent was left for around a week prior to being found. Hundreds, if not thousands, of man-hours were spent and numerous leads were exhausted, but the case went unsolved. The female was unidentified for over 3 decades. As with all the handful of cold cases, the case was reviewed by numerous investigators over the next 35 years. In the latter part of actually 2023, up until recently, evidence was re-examined and developments in science made it possible to investigate the case further. Detectives worked with the Illinois State Police Crime Lab and Othram Lab out of Texas in an effort to further examine and process forensic evidence. Additional interviews were conducted and the female was identified as Winona Nadine Michael. Her date of birth was August 23rd, 1959. But what's more important is she goes by Wendy. And that's what we want to stress, is that we want to release her name as Wendy because that's what she went by. The Madison County Coroner's Office assisted in obtaining a death certificate through the state of Illinois. Wendy was 30 years old when her life was taken in the summer of 1990, and she would have been 65 years old today. Wendy left behind 2 children, one of whom is still alive today. Wendy also has a brother who is with us today. He drove up from Nashville, Tennessee, and he is actually in the audience today with us. Upon speaking with Wendy's family, investigators were able to develop a timeline for Wendy's life. She was born in Los Angeles on August 23, 1959. Her parents moved her and her 4 siblings to Tennessee when she was just a toddler. Around her 16th birthday, Wendy moved to the area of Vero Beach, Florida, where she stayed until she moved to the area of Anderson and Shasta, California in the 1980s, from 83 or 84. She remained on the West Coast for a few years before she and her children traveled by bus back to Nashville, Tennessee in April of 1990. She left her children with some family members, and she later met up with her children for a brief moment in the Washington, D.C. area, where she met with her children at a local mall with the family. And she said, met with her children, and at that time she was with a male subject and was last seen with this male who was a truck driver, and she has not been seen since until her body was found in July of that same year. We want to bring some closure to Wendy's family, but we also request that anyone reach out to the Madison County Sheriff's Office to assist with finding her killer. We urge you to review the attached photographs of Wendy and her family and contact this office with any information. We will be emailing a packet with multiple ways to submit tips. We also have some photographs in front of you, some photographs that we're playing here on the PowerPoint, and we just ask you to get this word out, get the information out. We have some QR codes that you can submit tips. We ask you to broadcast our sheriff's app, which is over here. And on this QR code, if you get on the sheriff's app, we have an anonymous tip line that you can submit a tip. And we just ask you also, the local media, to rebroadcast this out to your local areas and also to the Washington, D.C. area, the Nashville area, any area where you think that that Wendy may have been, that someone may have some information that can help us get the lead to help solve this crime. At this time, I'll entertain any questions that you might have.
So do you have any details about this truck driver and who he might be?
All we know is he was a male. The detective interviewed the family member that dealt with him back in 1990, and they really did not have much information. They could not even give a skin color or hair color. It was just such a vague information. All they know is it was a male subject, and they know that her lifestyle is that she was riding with truck drivers around that time.
Does she have any connection to the Metro East or St. Louis region, or do you think this was simply driving through as a truck driver?
At this time, there's no reason to believe she had any connection to the St. Louis region.
Was she difficult to identify because of how long you believe she was in the field before she was?
Yeah, she was in a deep state of decomposition when she was found. It was in the late July, and they believe she was there from 3 days to a week. So there was a deep state of decomposition. And I can tell you the technology that was used is just amazing, how they were able to, with the genealogy, to track down her identity. It was a long process, and our detective, Svoboda, I'm going to give kudos to him. He did a fantastic job. He tracked down leads in the state of Washington, the state of Michigan, the state of Tennessee, tracked down a lot of leads to, Ortham gave him a strong lead in the state of Washington, and from there he was able to pick up and led to the positive identification of this.
Can you talk a little more in detail about the process of being able to identify her through technology?
That is way above my head when it comes to a process of genealogy. I don't know if, Michael, if you want to talk about anything like that, or Jake, if you.
So the way that process works is I'm using Othram Labs. I was able to send items that we had that had DNA evidence to their lab. What they do is they examine the DNA, they see the grade of the DNA, they tell you, how good the quality of sample is, and they quant that out and they make an extraction of it that they're then able to use what we call as FIG, or Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy. They upload it to sites like 23andMe, FTDNA, those type of familial sites, which are open to consumers on kind of your everyday base. We determine there, what's our closest relative, and the genealogists from that point determine where the tree needs to be grown and how it grows from one family to the next. At that point, when we get to that process, the lab contacts me and say, hey, we got a really good lead here. We'd like you to investigate that angle of it. And that's when I take, I'm not a scientist, I'll be the first to tell you that. But that's when I take the investigative role and begin making contacts with, potential family members, do interviews and phone calls and stuff like that. This particular case took a turn when the person I was supposed to get a reference sample from turned up to have already been deceased. So I began my investigation by seeing what other family members can I find on that side of the tree. So kind of in a nutshell, Michael, if I missed anything, feel free.
The one thing I'll point out is that the databases that we have access to are Family Tree DNA, GenMatch, and DNA Solve, which is Othram's database. Those allow for law enforcement searching. And so, Detective absolutely correct. We provide some information that otherwise wouldn't be had had we not sequenced some DNA. And then these guys and gals go do what they do best,
There are still items of evidence that we are examining.
And there are no links to a suspect energy act, but some reports were saying he may be connected to a serial killer. You can.
I think we're too early to tell at this point.
Is this one of the old cases that you will have, and do you think this will spark a conversation of more to, resolve other cases that you'll have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the goal. Anytime new evidence or new science catches up with our ability to investigate crimes, I think that we'd be remiss not to explore that option and help other cases that haven't been solved and see if we can advance those in the same manner.
How many are there currently that are being re-examined?
Right now, currently, there's 3 cases that the sheriff office holds that are unsolved, I will say, that are still being actively worked.
I was going to ask, are there any cold cases in Madison County where victims have not yet been ID'd, or is she the only one?
This is the last case that the Madison County Sheriff holds of an unidentified victim.
What was the evidence that was tested for DNA? Was it something y'all had in your possession since 1990?
Yes, whenever this case was investigated originally, the Madison County Coroner's Office reserved certain items of the body for this reason, in case in the future if there was technology that advanced. So there were certain items that were in evidence that was not buried with her. And those items were sent to the lab and analyzed, which was able to get a DNA profile.
How old were her children when she died?
There's a picture of them right there. That's a picture that was taken just about 2 months before she died. And I will say this rendering up here, this that picture, the one on that was from the FBI. We sent her skull to the FBI, and they did a clay. That was in a clay artist of 2007. So that just tells you that this case was looked at for decades. It was always, and all of our, they say cold case, but they're really not cold cases to us. We're always looking, always investigating these cases. I hate to use the word cold case because we're always interested in these cases. They just may not be at the top of the list, but we're always looking at these cases.
Can you speak at all to, I know the year that she died, there was some sort of clay rendering, I think it might have been that, but there were 10 or 11 tips that came in. It sounds like none of them were actual leads, but one of them could have been. Can you speak to what kind of information you all got that first year?
In 1990? Well, no. No leads in 1990 developed a suspect. So this is an unsolved homicide, and we just want to focus on Wendy. Right now, our goal is to focus on Wendy, to highlight Wendy now that we know who she is, and we really want to get this information out to the public, not just locally because she's not from here. We want to get it out, and through social media, any way you can push this information out, we would really like your assistance to get this out to people, that anybody that may have seen Wendy or know her, know where she was, especially if we can close that gap from April of 1990 to July of 1990. And I know that's a big ask, but that's what we need to do. And we were able to narrow it down to April, so there's nothing that says we can't narrow that gap even further. So we really need to do that. And once again, just to highlight, we have QR codes, anything, this could be an anonymous tip, Crime Stoppers. You can call the anonymous tip line at the Sheriff's Office, 618-296-3000, and there's other ways you can submit tips. We just ask you to take advantage of these ways to give us a tip, some type of lead that we can help solve who killed Wendy Michael.
I imagine we'll all want to ask, does Wendy's brother want to talk about Wendy at all, just as a person in her life?
I think at the conclusion of this, in the conversation I had, I think he's open to a conversation, but I would ask that you be very, very respectful to him. This isn't something that he's used to, but he did tell me that he'd be willing to have a very short conversation, but please be respectful of him.
Was she in a national database
before. You didn't know.
She was in the national database of a Jane Doe found, but she wasn't in a national database as a missing person. So we were getting leads for 35 years of missing persons that may have married up to her description, and those were investigated all the time.
What does that mean to you, to have a name to this? I mean, what does it mean from the department?
It's an exciting day, it really is, that we can give closure to family members. And there's other family members out there that weren't able to be here today, and it's exciting to them. And we wish we could have gave closure sooner, but we're thankful to Ortham Lab to be able to help us give that closure to those family members. Thank you all very much. We really appreciate that. Once again, we just ask you to help us get this word out to help solve this crime for Wendy. Thank you.